Hi, this is Sonia with Part3 Solutions, and welcome to hashtag How Do You Do Art. And for the month of October, we're working in contrast and with the side quest of making a mini journal using contrasting things. So I've already done some jelly printing and I've already made the signatures. So on this one, I'm going to start working on the cover. And so what I did was I went on ahead and I measured my little pages and I cut out a piece of cardboard, which is still wet. And I went on, because the cover is going to be roughly, I think like 5.5 by 7.5 with a 1-inch spine, but it's still wet. It's just recycled cardboard. I'm just going to set that to the side and let that finish drying. But what I was wanting to do on this particular episode, I'm wanting to have like an image. I got a piece of fabric which is roughly 5 by 4.25. So I'm going to try to print out an image that's 3.5 by 4.5. And it'll probably be like an image of like a house like in the country or something like that. So, and I'm wanting to see if I can transfer it onto here, and then I'll just layer it and stuff like that. Because I want to have like a what do you call it? A fall theme. Anyway, so I don't know, depending on what image I have, if it has like words in the background, I might put it in reverse, like print the image out in reverse. And some printers do have that feature and some printers don't. If your printer doesn't have it, you can always load it up into Canva or Photoshop or different apps. And I'll show you both Photoshop and Canva in case your printer doesn't do that. So I want to show you different ways that you can print these out and flip it in reverse. So now on my printer, I have one of them is a Canon. And so if I were to go to print, my computer is a little bit slow, so sorry. All right. Of course, you could choose landscape or portrait or, however you wanted to do yours. I would probably do landscape, well, depending on what your image is and what the size is and all that good stuff. And then, you have your paper size. Depending on what size you want, like in my situation, I'm wanting an image that's 3.5 by 4.5. So I would have to go to, if I use my Canon printer, I would have to use, let's see, A3 scaled. No, I don't want the A3 size. Probably like a 4 by 6 or something like that. And then it gives you the option to fill the page or shrink to fit. And then I would do shrink to fit, so that it could take on whatever that size is. And then, like my printer, everyone's printer is going to be different. So my printer, I'd go to more, the more choices or whatever. You could choose, like if you want a borderless on, I want it off. Paper size 4 by 6 or 5 by 7, 8 by 10, whichever. None of these are what I need, so I'm just going to hit cancel. But like I said, your printer, everyone has different printers, different types of printers and all that good stuff. So I'm going to show you an option in Canva. So I don't know if you already have a Canva account or not. If you don't, go ahead and get you one. There are things that you can do for free, and then there's paid subscriptions. So what I would do, depending on, once again, whatever size you need, I'm going to go to custom size. Now, remember, mine's going to be printed out. So I'm going to go to 8.5 by 11 inch. Let me do that again because I've already put that in there. What you could do, go to units, and you could do pixels, inches, millimeters, or centimeters. So I'm going to do inches. And you could do, 8.5 by 11 or whatever your size is. But, or if you wanted to do like me, you could also do the 3.5 by 4.5. But the reason why I'm doing 8.5 inch by 11 inch is because I want it to be able to position it where I want it on my paper. So create new design. And like I said, I'm wanting my image to be 3.5 by 4.5. So I'm going to go ahead and upload my image. And let's see, download. Now let's just say I'm just using something that has script in it, or writing, or words, or things of that nature in it. Okay. The word, okay, if I want it printed out and then I'm going to flip it over and put it onto some fabric, the words are going to be opposite. So if I don't want that to happen, I can just go up here to flip horizontal, and then that's how it'll print out. It'll print out opposite. And you can reduce the size that you want, or in my situation, I'm just sliding that over. I'm going to go over to Elements, and I'm going to type in frame. And you can do frame, you can do shapes. There are a whole plethora of different things that you can do. So for frames, I'm just going to click on See All. And I guess I should say square frame. Square frame. And then you have different options of your square frame. So I'm just going to click on this one, for example. And then I'm just going to move this image over top of it. And then it'll take on that shape. And then I'm going to click on the shape, and, well, you can adjust your size. Now, make sure when you adjust your size, you look at the little black where it says, the little black box where it's telling you your width and your height. So if I want 3.5 by 4.5, I'm just going to scroll down to, or hold my handles, the little handles, click and drag to where it literally says 3.5. Well, that's 3.5 by 3.5. I need a 3.5 by 4.5. So if I want it taller, I can just click on this bottom part until it gets to 4.5. So click on it, and then you'll see 3.5 by 4.5. And then you have the size that you need. And then you can place it where you want it, so that it can get printed out. So if you don't want to print out a whole, if you don't want this in the middle, because typically if you just use your printer, it's going to get printed out in the middle. But if you don't want that, you could print this up here. And even if you wanted to, you could actually add another image on there. So you go to upload, and then you're going to choose the file that you want to upload. So just find wherever your file is. I'm just going to do this little farmhouse, for example. Open. And now keep in mind, I need it the same size. And you can do a frame, or you could do, I'm just going to stick to frames, like square frame. Click that. And I'm just going to click and drag it to the size that I need. So this is 3.5 by 3.5, but I want my height taller. So I'm just going to click in the middle at the bottom until the height is 4.5. Okay, so now that's the size that I need. All right, and then I'm just going to add in, okay, I'm just going to click on that image that I chose, and I'm going to place it right there. And then you can see where your image is. So, and if you don't like empty space, you could go ahead and print something else out so that you're just not wasting space. But that's what you can do in Canva. So you've got your reverse. All you had to do is just click on your image and then go up to the top where it says flip, click flip, and you can rotate it horizontal or vertical or however you wanted to do it. So that's one of the ways that you could print in reverse. And then you just go over to file. And if you wanted to give your file a name, you could, and save it, and then file. And then you would download, I guess. Yeah. And then you could open up your file and then print it out. So that's just one way using Canva. And then if you have Photoshop, you could do something similar. So what I'm going to do new file, and it's going to give me the option for the size that I want. And I want it to be a print file. So, because you have the choice between photo, print, art, and illustration, blah, blah, blah. It's going to be a print file. So I hit print, and it automatically defaults to 8.5 inches by 11. I'm going to change that to my 3.5, so 3.5 by 4.5. And then I want 300 resolution because, 300 dpi, pixels per inch, and RGB color. I do RGB color instead of CMYK color. It depends on your printer, because I had just your basic standard inkjet. I stick with the RGB color because that's typically the type that your inkjet ink colors. The ink uses those RGB colors typically. And then white background, background content's white, working RGB, the color profile, and then square pixels. So we're just going to leave it at that right there. And then hit create. And then we're going to open up that file. Let's see. Open. And then we're going to do our vintage script. And I'm just going to randomly pick a script to open up. We'll use that one right there. And then I'm using the Mac. So now I'm using the Windows on this one. So this is Control C, which is copy, or if you're on a Mac, it'd be Command C. And then I'm going to go back over here to the untitled document. What did I do? Okay. Oh, great. What did I do? Okay. New. Print. I don't know what I did. Anyway, so 3.5 by 4.5. 300 dpi. Create. All right. So we're going to paste Control P. No, actually it's Control V, which is paste. And I'm going to hit Control 0 so you can zoom out to see how big that image is. And you can go click your little handle, click and drag, click and drag, click and drag to the size that you need. All right. And then I'm going to hit Control 0. And I'm hit this little check up here. You can either hit check, or typically you can just hit enter. Let me click and drag that again. So now you have two layers. I don't know if you're familiar with Photoshop, but as you start bringing things in, you create layers. So our base layer, and I'm just going to hit this little toggle the visibility. The base layer was that little layer that we created, the empty one. That was 3.5 by 11. 3.5 by 4.5 inches. And then the layer over top of it is the one that we just copied and pasted over top of it. It's kind of like when you're collaging and you're just adding that on there. All right. So I'm going to combine the two. I'm going to just do some camera raw filter. I like to make sure that all my stuff is more defined. I like to edit my stuff before I print it. That's why a lot of times I go into Photoshop, because sometimes the images aren't as crisp as I like. But anyway, so I'm going to click the top layer, and I'm going to click the bottom layer, And we're going to left click, and then we're going to hit merge layers. And then it becomes one layer. There's another way you could do it. You could also, instead of just merging those two layers, you could have just deleted that bottom layer, and then your top layer would have already been that size. But anyway, we're just going to leave it like that. And if you wanted to go ahead and print it, you could hit File, Print. Oh, you know what? Hold on, cancel. I forgot we need to flip this. All right, so image, actually it's edit because we're going to rotate. Transform. And you're going to flip horizontal. So now you can print it out, the opposite way. So File, Print, if this is the only thing you want it printed. And then in Photoshop, you can just click it and drag it to the area where you want this printed at. But now if you wanted to do like we did in Canva and say you wanted more than just one image on there, then you would have to open up another document and then just add that particular document that we just created into there. It's a little more complex. So if you're going to do multiple images on one page, I'm just going to show you just the Canva one. We'll just follow the Canva instructions instead of this one because, yeah. All right. So I hit cancel. Well, I'll go ahead and show you. All right. So File, New, and then we're doing Print. And it automatically defaults to the 8.5 inch by 11. So create. All right. So we're going to go to our untitled, which is the one that has the script. Because here's the original script, which we don't need anymore. So we're X out of there. So I don't need that one. I'm going to go back to my untitled, which I could give it a name. But I'm just going to Command C, which is copy. And then I'm just going to come over here, Command V. Command V, which is paste. And then we're going to change our size. Say image, size. Hold on. Make sure I'm on the correct layer. Image, size. And you can do pixels or you can do inches. So I don't want an 8.5 by 11. I want mine 3.5 by 4.5 and 300 pixels. Okay. So there's that one. So Command 0. Hold on. All right. And then if you wanted to add another image, we're going to open up one, open, download, and we'll just get that farmhouse image, open, and Command C. And then we're going to go to the untitled, Command V, which is paste. Command 0 so we can kind of see where we're at. We're going to zoom out. And then we're going to do edit, transform. Well, we don't need to flip horizontal. So we'll just go to image, image size, and 3.5 by 4.5. So it's 3.5 by 4.5, but just turned, landscape instead of horizontal. But it's basically, well, supposed to be 3.5 or 4.5. So what size is this? Image size 3.5 or 4.5. Yeah. Supposed to be the same size, but somehow it's a little. Well, this one's just a hair bigger. We'll make it a little bit smaller to where it's almost that same size as that right there. And then we can print it. I'm actually going to make this one. Well, let me just turn this one back around. There's so many things you can do. All right, I hope I didn't confuse you guys. All right, so now I'm getting ready to print this. Let me first give it a name. Save the copy. And I'm just going to call this, How Do You Do Art? October 2025. And this is going to be the reverse prints. That's what I'll call it. Save. All right. And then you can choose the quality. Do you want it to be a large file, small? The better the quality, the bigger your file, the smaller, the less quality. All right. And then I'm just going to, I want to view gamut. Always gamut warning. Make sure it's in gamut. Okay. So far it looks good. If it weren't in gamut, like when it goes to print, it would print with like gray stuff, but it looks pretty good. All right. So we're going to go ahead and file, print. That looks pretty small. We'll just print it up here. That looks small. It doesn't look like the size that I'm wanting. But anyway, we're just going to go ahead and send it through the printer. And in Photoshop, you have options, obviously, your type of printer. And you go to print settings, your layout, portrait, landscape, whatever. Print settings. Cannot update smart file. Oh, I know why. I would have had to have, I have 3 different layers. I didn't merge these together. So let me merge these together so that they just become one file. Yeah. And then we'll save it again. As a JPEG, save. Yes, it already exists. We're going to replace it. Okay. All right. Now we can, print settings. I still wouldn't. Smart object. All right. Anyway, we're not going to worry about that. So we're just going to go ahead and print. I should have slid it up. Anyway, it's okay. I'm printing on some, paper, inkjet film. So, and then I'm going to transfer these images onto my fabric. Okay, so I printed this out too small. But the good thing is typically, there's 2 sides. There's the side where you can see your breath, and which is the wrong side, which is the side that you need to use to print, and then the side where you can't see your breath at. So you can reuse it and try again. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to scale it up. I thought I had it on the right size. But anyway, I'm going to reprint this out again. Let me try to let this dry a little bit. And then we're going to do it again. All right, so I'm going to definitely go ahead and take the fabric and what I think I'm going to do, because I want the house and I want one of the trees and I want part of the truck in it. So I'm trying to stretch this. I hope I don't mess it up. I think I'm going to put the fabric over top of the image and then just smear it on like that. It might work, it might not work. I don't know. We'll see. No, I'm just disappointed on that part. Maybe I can still get it if I print it out again. Maybe if I apply it like this, let's just go ahead and do it like this. Kind of like a rubber one. And if that works, then I know. If not, then I guess this process won't work. Well, we got some on there. That's not too bad. But the image that I was wanting just didn't go on the way I wanted it to. Maybe, let me just see. I'm still going to see if I can get it on there. Oh, I turned it the wrong way. God bless. Oh, all right. I'm going to print this out again, and then if it doesn't work, then it doesn't work. All right. So I printed it out again by itself, but I forgot to put it in reverse, and I'm just going to leave it like that. All right. So we're going to try to put this on here. And then use it as like a rubble and transfer. It may work, it may not work. I don't know. I think it will. I hope it will. And it may do better if you had laser jet prints instead of inkjet. I don't know. But this is what I'm going with. It's on there a little bit. It's not too bad. And the good thing is I was able to use this over and over and over again. So, all right. So what I'm going to do is move this out the way, move my rag out the way. I am going to use this. I'm going to keep it. You can see the image a little bit, but we're going to idle it up. So I'm just going to add a little bit of paints and stuff just to kind of bring it out more. And I guess I'll just use some black paint, maybe a little bit of blue, just to kind of bring it out. Or I could even use the ink pen if it'll work. So this is pretty much the finished product. I did try printing out some words and stuff and transferring it, but it just it doesn't do as good as I like. And so plus I had to edit some of this, like, you know, I had to take paints and inks and try to make it look like a house, but it's okay. So this is going to be my little journal topper for my journal. And so I've already got the signatures. So in the next video, I'll just do some, I'm probably going to go ahead off camera and paint the inside white as well. And then I'll, on the next one, we'll sew in our signatures and add some pockets. And this is just going to be a simple little journal. Yeah, with just blank pages and then the envelope. And I'll go ahead and glue these little tip-ins. Well, not tip, well, I guess they're kind of like tip-in envelopes, you know. So, but yeah, this is my showing for hashtag how do you do art using contrasting or working contrast. So, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel and check out my other videos, blog, and social media sites. And as always, I thank you guys so much for watching.